Hit it.
I didn't get a monster, and I'm regretting it. I was leaving work. I was like, I'll be good. I'm fine. I don't need it. I'll be all right. Wrong.
I haven't had a drop of caffeine in months.
There's no way. You
Not
had
a
to have had
drop.
some. Diet Coke?
Not,
No, you don't even drink dark soda.
I do drink Diet Coke. I love Diet Coke. It's actually my favorite soda. But the only time I drink it is on those fancy soda fountains, and they have the caffeine-free version.
Oh, the gold label.
Yes.
He's fancy.
It's the only time
So I do pre-workout at 4 a.m. and go to the gym and then hit the monster before work to keep my energy buzzing.
No, man. I can't do it. I would have a freaking heart attack.
So there's those C4s, and I'll get those every now and then. Like if it's really bad, I'll get one of those C4s, but those make my skin itch.
Oh yeah, because they have beta alanine in it.
Like
that's the ingredient. Yes,
it makes my scalp like
that's the tingle ingredient.
And my coworkers think I'm having a stroke or something, and I'm like, dude, my skin is like pins and needles all over.
Justin's over here like I can feel colors.
Dude, there's not enough caffeine in the world at this point to get me to that. Like, pretty much everything else keeps me at 0 right now. Like, that's pretty much. It's just to keep me from falling below that. It's bad, dude. The amount of caffeine I drink in a day is absurd.
It is very absurd.
And the C4s, I probably shouldn't drink those if I'm not working out. I don't know. I'm fat, man. I need to start doing something about it. But I drink those C4s, and I'm like, you're probably supposed to actually be like really working out when you drink these. Otherwise,
is C4 like a bang? It's supposed to be like a
C4 is definitely a more pre-workout type of caffeine drink.
Yeah, I used to.
It was really good though.
What a change for me from like 3 years ago, man. Like back then, I would start every single day before work. I'd go to the gas station. I'd buy a pack of cigarettes and a Monster, and that was my breakfast, And now neither of them. I'm changed, man. I see the light.
What do you mean you see the light?
I see myself living past 40.
Oh. Well,
no.
I don't know. I tried to cut back, and I did pretty good for about a week. But then it just, there's those stressful days at work. You're like, I need the extra bump. I got it, and I will leave and go to the gas station. That's Jake's payment now when he has snakes shipped to work because I'm there. I'm like, you can come get them, but you gotta bring a Monster or something. You gotta have an offering. You gotta stop by the refuel.
That ain't a bad deal.
I even bring you the big boy when I do it. It's not that little guy. Okay, get you a big one.
But then he's like giving me a hard time about drinking caffeine and stuff. I'm like, look, you're either with it or you're not.
Look, man, I just want you to be around for a long time.
And I will, thanks to caffeine.
I care about you. That's it.
No, but I do. This time of year always sucks, man. I just eat like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like Christmas and stuff, it's rough. Like, try as hard as you want between work and family gatherings and, whatever else. It's just a constant parade of just horrible food for you. Like, there's junk all over the place.
It's terrible.
But my eardrums, man.
What, did I say it too loud?
I don't know. I need to turn these down, but my controller's all the way over there.
I don't know. Joe didn't complain, so it's probably you.
Doesn't matter. This is episode 207 of the Herpetoculture Podcast. It's 2024. If you didn't know, it's the first show of the year. I feel like we didn't even really have like a break.
We didn't have a break. Did we? We only took like 1 week off, didn't we?
I know. I think so.
Because last week we did
the week of Christmas. We didn't do anything.
Wait,
because I was out of town. I was gone.
No, because the day after you got back, we did the Man of the Year episode.
Yeah,
that was last week.
Well, yeah. Well,
And
we're
the-
back.
Then the week before that, we were off. I don't know, man.
We're
It all
back.
goes together.
BlackBox Cages is back.
Whoop, whoop.
They have decided to go once more around the sun with us. Each year, usually check in with sponsors and be like, "Hey, we still doing our thing?" And if they're like, "Sure, awesome," if they're like, "We're
Sweet.
good," and that's cool too.
Yeah.
But BlackBox sticking with us. You need a rack, you need a cage, you need both. You need a room full of one, a room full of the other. It doesn't matter. They're gonna have something that you're gonna like and you're gonna use. The quality is, in my experience, unmatched. Lead time also unmatched. If you're in the general southeast area, near North Georgia, you can go pick up your orders from them direct instead of having to worry about freight and shipping. Which, even if you do, their packaging legit. I don't know how Clint and Jen do it, because it's amazing that they can pack things up so well to where even UPS and FedEx can't damage it, which is impressive.
That takes
Yeah.
it takes a god. It really does.
It takes the Midas touch, man.
That is Clint. You should see Clint whenever he packs up my truck, man, because
Yeah.
he basically pushes me and Justin to the side, and he's like, "Nah," because I'm always like, let me help, let me grab something. He's like, "Dude,
"Shut up, I'm an
he's
engineer."
like, just follow my lead," and I'm like, "Yes, sir."
Hold the flashlight still, damn it.
It's crazy, man. I think we packed, because I got a little Tacoma, but I've got the
Dude.
access cab, so I've got a 6-foot bed, right? Me and Justin this year, we didn't bring a U-Haul, and we ended
We
up
rolled the dice on that one.
Yeah, we did, but we succeeded. We left there in my truck. We had 2 3 by 18 by 2, or 2 3 by 18 by 2s. We had a 4 by 2 by 2,
55 rack.
my 55 rack, your XR20.
I don't know how we did it.
I don't either. Like I said, it's Clint.
That's impressive.
Clint is probably,
It sounds like a lot.
It
I
was
want
a lot.
to see him play Tetris, because I'll bet you it's something to be seen.
It was 3 cages and 2 big racks.
And then didn't you get a toe kick or something too?
Yeah, I had a toe kick and then a bunch of
that thing
extra
was packed
supplies.
out.
Packed
It was the ride back when you have the truck full like that is always a little stressful, because you're keep looking out the mirror expecting to see something going down the road. But
That's right. And this even attests to BlackBox's quality. It rained on the way back. I had no cover on anything. Everything was just strapped down. It rained, and not a thing was wrong with any of it. None of the wiring, none of that. You wipe everything off, get the little dirt stains off it from the raindrops, and good to go.
yeah, no, their stuff is awesome. I know we've been big fans for several years now. They've been sponsors for a couple of years now. When we say these things, we mean it. I hate to harp so much each episode about how much we love BlackBox, but damn it, their stuff is good and you need to try it out. And when you do, you need to go and use the code THN at checkout and save yourself 10% off your order.
I literally have a wall and a half of BlackBox.
I know. I was talking to Jen and I was like, Jake's got it right, because he's got like the backdrop, and me, he's like, I've talked about getting like a healer or something in here, but even then with the camera and stuff, I just don't think I could pull it off.
It sucks in
not enough room.
Angle. It sucks at this angle because you can't see everything, but like that, everything right there now is all BlackBox.
Yeah,
but
it is legitimately good stuff. Lead times, you're going to order something, you're going to get it. Currently, I think it's still around 2 weeks. That hasn't changed for a handful of months now. They just crank them out. Price wise, I've looked myself, like shopped and compared to other companies doing the similar size and things like that, as far as dimensions of racks and cages, and they're very, very close, if not beating most.
I know when I bought from them before they sponsored the show, and there was only one company cheaper than them, but the quality wasn't there like at all. Like there was no customization, the quality wasn't there, the different sizes weren't there, none of it was there. And now when I say cheaper, I don't mean, oh, this was $400 cheaper. I mean, it was $50.
Yeah. Like at that point, it's kind of negligible, when you're talking about dropping a decent chunk of change on that stuff. It's
Yeah.
like $40 or $50 isn't going to make that big of a difference.
No, not at all. And
it's not going to be a deal breaker for me. It's like I'll go ahead and pay the extra.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it. I've had racks from a few different places now, and these are by far the best I've ever owned. So,
without a doubt. So whether you're in the market or not, still just go over to blackboxcages.com, check it out, shop around, see if there's anything that catches your eye. And then hop on over to stevesnaketuary.com, get yourself the full lineup of Venom hot sauce. Steve also has renewed for 2024. Steve's a good dude, been around since the beginning.
Yeah, he's going on 6 years with us now, isn't it?
Speaking of, hold on a second.
Hold up.
He did a post. So 2023 year in review. He had 521 snake/reptile calls, 95 presentations, and over 9,000 lives positively impacted and changed. So the man's busy. Help him out. You get that Venom hot sauce, you're helping him direct.
Yeah, and it's good. You get something out of it. He's not asking for a donation. You're getting hot sauce, man.
This is like
good stuff.
My mic stand is really struggling.
I don't like those mic stands, man. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what?
I
do.
I just can't. It looks cool, but I have such a hard time adjusting it. It's so hard.
Well, they're kind of meant to, like, once you have them where you want them to stay that way. So
yeah, that's why I like this one. It's just right. It's right. Hey,
neither here nor there. But this week we are joined by Joe DeStefano.
That's a very Italian last name, my friend.
DeStefano, yeah. You got it close enough.
Stefano.
Very Italian.
Very Italian. I love it though, because you're actually from New York, right?
I'm from Queens. Yes, I grew up in Queens.
Beautiful, beautiful. Are you a Giants fan?
Honestly, I'm not a football guy. I'm a Yankees fan. Baseball is my thing.
I got you.
If anything,
I can take that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mr. Joe here has had both Justin and I on his podcast now. So if you haven't checked it out, you definitely need to check out the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. It is live on YouTube every Sunday. And let me tell you, this man goes to some lengths to make sure his podcast airs on Sunday. Whether it's pre-recorded or live, it's normally live, but the man was in New York visiting his girlfriend and all this, and he still had a live show on Sunday.
So I'll explain that one. She just started a nursing job, so she was literally on her first 12-hour shift. So I was home at her house doing absolutely nothing all day. I went to the gym in the morning, and I was supposed to have another guest on, and then I was like, why don't I have Justin on? The other guests didn't work out. I didn't really hear back from them, but neither here nor there. I'm actually having them on this week, so that's cool. But yeah, so I had Justin on, and I was like, let's do it earlier in the day. It's whatever. But I do the Sundays for the algorithm. That's it. I'm like, I might as well keep the same schedule, right?
Yeah, man. No, you're doing a great job at it, man.
Thank you.
Consistency, man. That's that's a big chunk of the the success of a podcast is just keeping at it. It's like the gym, you're not gonna have success at the gym if you're only going hardcore for a month and then slacking off for another month, and then it's just you got to keep a nice schedule and routine, and then it just gets easier after that. So
it's also big for live episodes. It's one thing if you do a pre-recorded release it, you can release it whenever you want, but if people once you get it following, people are expecting a live show on this day, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, just kidding, we're doing it on Tuesday this week, and everybody's gonna be like, whoa, like it's all but you're
and even with the pre-recorded stuff, the way YouTube works, you can still upload it as like a premiere so that it still premieres live, and if people want to watch it at that time still, if even if they don't get to have the good old chat interaction, I'm always in the room, so I'll always be there for that kind of banter back and forth if anyone's in the chat. But I always think that's cool too, because the people that are watching it's still their first time watching it, and first time it's being shown to the public.
That was the one thing I was a little sad about, the live. I like lives now just for that chat interaction. I was like, damn, we're not going to be live. that's all right. Still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any updates on your end?
Not really right now. You see, I'm in the snake room. I'm in a hoodie. I'm cooling down the entire room right now. We're down to about 66 in here. It's it's a pre-cooling force. I've actually been meeting to get everything in the garage for actual cooling, but I do a pre-cool in the room, get everything low for about a week or two. Then everything goes in the garage, but it's also kind of a cycling for everything else. The carpets need to get down. I like the rest of the room to get into a routine. So everything's been pretty much cut off the last almost 2 weeks now. And here in the next couple days, I need to get everything in the garage for their actual cooling for the rest of January and hopefully February if it stays cold.
I don't know, man. I was thinking about that the other day. I think this has been like the most consistently cold winter we've had in a minute.
I don't. Yeah,
Like,
it's been
cold days have been very.
It's been consistently cold, but it hasn't gotten like really cold. You know,
Like
we usually
30 degrees this morning.
You're telling me I was in my truck at 6:15 this morning. It was freezing, but it doesn't. We usually get like consistently cold. Like this weekend is supposed to be back up to like 60 something. You know,
That's
so
still not 70s and up.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I'm hoping the cold kind of lasts through February. That way I can be. Last year, I ended up pulling everything out a little earlier than I wanted just because come February, it got just warm and it was staying mid to high 60s in the garage. And, around those temps, I like to pull everything out. So when it's cold, I worry about bugs in the garage more than anything. And when it's cold, it's not really a issue. But
What
once
kind
it
of
starts,
bugs?
roaches. We live in the South. There's roaches.
Get some
everywhere.
Mediterranean geckos like I have. They'll take care of that.
Those little Mediterranean geckos are not eating roaches
No, but they're eating their babies, which is stopping them from getting that big.
That's true. I need to get a group of them, just release them in the garage. It's so funny, if I would be over there, like we would be doing a show, and then if you see me just looking up, it's because I'm watching one of the geckos chase a moth around the wall. Yeah. It's funny.
Entertaining.
But yeah, so I'm waiting to put everything in the garage. And once everything's in the garage, I'll probably start to warm the room back up. Nothing crazy because I needed down for the carpets because I think that's partially why I wasn't successful last year. It's because I didn't cycle her. I didn't cycle the room at all. I just let it stay about 80. I didn't drop it down like carpets usually need at least a little bit of a drop.
See, I think it's the male though.
The male's a stud, dude.
Yeah, but I think it's a matter of them getting cold enough for that spermatogenesis
to
kick in and the fertility of it. It's not necessarily a lack of him not trying. He's just shooting.
Yeah. Blanks. Oh, I mean, he tried. She slugged out. I mean, I got a clutch. It just wasn't viable. So I'm not. It was just this. I think it was the cycle of the room and just not getting everybody where they needed to be. So looking forward to that. Hopefully, more success this year. I'm not for pythons. I'm not a breed back-to-back years kind of guy, and I really don't know how I feel about doing it back-to-back years. I've talked to a lot of people. Everybody says they're fine to do it 2 years in a row. So I'm not gonna make a habit out of it. But since she slugged out last year, she bounced back really well. I'm really itching to produce carpets again, so I'm gonna give her another go. She's been slamming. I fed her really heavy going into this. So hopefully we'll have some nice high yellow carpets again this year, but we shall see.
Nice.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, everything as usual.
Business as usual.
Business as usual. Nothing crazy. What about you? Anything new?
Well, I completely forgot my own damn company. FullViewsApparel.com. Check that out. Use code THN at checkout. I'm like, man, I'm forgetting something. I can't figure out what it was.
I was too. I was like, I feel like there's something else.
Dude, it's been, I'm struggling. It's that early onset dementia, I think. But,
old ass.
Yeah, nothing new going on here. I'm actually contemplating warming stuff up at the end of the month instead of like Valentine's Day, because I'm pretty traditional in the like Thanksgiving weekend they go down, they come up Valentine's Day,
I
whatever
still
that.
can't believe you do that.
Why?
Around here, man, it's just not cold enough. We had 80-degree days since Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I can't do it, man.
It's not like they're staying at 80.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just
I
like
can't
the cold.
control the weather.
No, you can't, but
Weather
you control when
warning?
you can control when you put your snakes down.
I
Do you
don't
keep
know.
in? Do you put them in the closet or do you put them in the garage?
So what I did previously was I'd put them in the garage for like 2 weeks, or not the garage, the closet for like 2 weeks, because it is colder than the rest of the house, but it's not fully cold like the garage is. This time around, because we had a warmer, like slightly warmer week in winter, I went ahead and put them in the garage and let them sort of slowly cool down that way. And now
That's
they're
the way to do it.
yeah, now they're just in here. I don't like to just kind of throw them to the
No,
drop
you
'em.
want to do that gradual. That's why I did the room, because I dropped the ball a little bit. I like to put things in the garage while it's still a little warm. But the timing this year was so weird with the weather, man. We were so back and forth for a while, and I just didn't want to, and I need to cycle the carpets anyways. So I dropped the whole room. The heat's off in here. It's been getting into the mid to low 60s
Mm-hmm.
every day. So
Yeah,
but
other than that, yeah, stuff's just cooling. Female green tree is in shed right now, so that seems like it's a sign of things going in the right direction there. No signs of locks from them recently. It's again with green trees, it's pretty obvious when things are like on and when things are off, and they've been off for a while now. Just in terms of like activity between the two, normally I'd see the male at least attempting to lock up with her on a regular basis. Haven't seen that lately. He's pretty much been doing his own thing. So I'm thinking he made it happen. Haven't seen an ovulation, but that may have happened while we were in Tennessee, but I don't think it did, because the timeline isn't adding up for that. But
I guess it would be a little different with green trees because they're out so much. But I've personally never seen, when I've bred carpets, I've never seen a lock, and I never saw an ovulation, and I got eggs, But granted, they hide a lot more when they're ovulating. That green trees are normally out and about.
Yeah, you see a green tree ovulation, and you think that it's about to explode. Like, they get so freaking huge, it's insane.
Yeah.
So, we'll see about that, and I think that's pretty much it. Nothing else going on. Still contemplating the Morph Market account thing and setting one up and getting some stuff posted, because I'm going to start shipping windows about to open back up again now that we're out of the holidays and stuff. So we'll see, but
yeah,
not in a major hurry to do that, honestly.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would like a few more babies gone before this coming season. But I don't know, man. Is there? So I haven't looked in the morph market a lot, Joe. You might be able to add in, because is it solely a monthly payment, or can you do one payment up front and be done for the year?
Yeah, I paid annually for mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I thought about that too, but I just I don't have a ton of stuff to part with. So it's like, I don't want to pay for a year and then not end up using it for 6 months of that, and just
right. What I can tell you, it's not like, I forget which one I'm on. If it's like, it's not the free one, obviously, or if it's like the basic then standard. I'm on like a pretty decent one where I think it was about $130 for the year, which isn't bad, and I have a pretty big range of monetary value and ads to have posted at the same time, because that's how it's kind of categorized. They're like, you get a certain amount of ads that are such and such monetary value.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been meaning to look into it, but I don't know, man. I don't. It's sad, man, because like part of me, like I don't want to sell any of them, man. I want to keep them all, but I know I can't. So I've got a few that are still going out, and I got to really sift through everything and see what needs to go. Because I mean, as far as babies are concerned, I've got a few that are going out once it warms up a little bit, but I don't know. I gotta make some decisions. It's not fun. It's the worst part about breeding snakes is letting your little babies go.
Yep.
It's your blood, sweat, and tears, man.
Yep.
But well, Joe, why don't you give us kind of your background and give us the intro, long or short,
Sure.
how you got into this and where you are now.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of long leading up to where we are now. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm definitely I'd say probably on the younger side of the hobby. I'm 23, and so I started when I was 10 years old. So, I loved animals since I was a little kid. I wanted to grow up and be a vet, and I'm not in veterinary school, so that shows you where that went. Plans changed in college, but so I grew up loving animals. I had a fish tank for a while when I was younger. There was one day where I was with my dad. We walked into our local mom and pop pet store where I later worked, and we saw a Texas rat labeled for $36, and I was like, "Dad, let's get that one. Look how cheap it is. Look how cheap it is." And safe to say, I still have her today, which is awesome. So she was a 2010 hatchling, so she's a 13-year-old animal, which is really cool that I still have her. So yeah, I kind of just started there. Really, basic stuff. We didn't know a whole lot, and care when she was growing up probably wasn't the best. And to be completely honest, her growth is a little stunted because I think we weren't feeding her as readily as we probably should have been. I think we're going a little light. So she's a little bit on the smaller side, which is okay, but she's still healthy and whatever. But anyway, yeah, moving along, I got really into it. Then I started working at that pet store, and at that pet store, it was like basically all exotic animals, so fish, reptiles, birds, small mammals, and all that stuff. So that's where I really got a lot of my hands-on with a bunch of different reptile species. With that also said, that as we said before, I'm from New York City, so we can't have any pythons, boas, any large constrictors there, no big lizards there as well. So my breadth of knowledge was really limited to colubrids, bearded dragons, and some gecko species. And yeah, that was kind of it. But I learned a lot there. That's kind of where my base of knowledge came from. Just learning about all these different species, genetics, morphs, and all that. And then I was really like, well, I want to get into this myself because we used to breed snakes there. And I got to breed the store snakes, but like I really wanted some of my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to pair. There was one point where they had a scaleless male Texas rat snake. I brought my female there to get bred. And I took her back home. I got eggs, and sure enough, I popped out. Oh no, yeah. So I just popped out a few Texas rats, which was awesome. My first time breeding. This was 2017, or yeah, 2017. So I was 16, 17 years old. Really cool experience at the time. I picked up another Texas rat that year, scaleless boy. 2018, I picked up my scaleless leucistic female, who's the mom of my clutch this year. We'll get there. And let's see. There was also a Cow King in the mix, but eventually I traded her out to make room for another Texas rat. But yeah, I kind of kept going. Then in 2019, paired my Texas rat girl, the original one, to a scaleless boy. This time we hatched out scaleless. So we found out that my 2010 hatchling proved out to be het scaleless, and I was over the moon. I was like, whoa, holy shit, and all this. Yeah, that's where it really came from. I acquired another rat snake in the midst of there, and then I really started seeing a lot of the Asian species on Facebook. So in 2021, that's where I picked up my first bamboo rat snake from the. You guys had her on Corn Stars from Carol Huddleston.
Oh yeah,
Low Belly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where that first bamboo rat came from, and then 2021 is also when I moved to Florida, and that changed the game for the snake. So I only had 5 snakes at the time when we moved. We got a rack system because there weren't enough rooms for tanks. And then there was a local pet shop. My brother and I walk in there and we see this purple looking ball python hatchling. And then that's where that craze started. But so the collection was always, and I always like swore off ball pythons when I was a teenager. I was like, they're pet rocks, this and that. But I also wasn't seeing the right stuff.
yeah.
Then I started, seeing more of the YouTube, the social media stuff, being tuned into Justin Kabelka. I mean, he's the GOAT in ball pythons. I mean, seeing the stuff he popped out, I was like, well, we got to get into this. So that's where that rabbit hole went. Added some more Texas rats, added some more, a couple more porfs to the collection. And we are where we are now. Had some more breeding this year, bred Texas rats and ball pythons. And that's kind of the gist of it. Sorry if that was a little long, but wanted to give the whole story.
No, you're good. Currently, do you sit at more ball pythons or more colubrids?
I have a hard time figuring that out all the time. I think it's close to even, to be completely honest. I think it's nearing even, maybe slightly more ball pythons, and that's because I had a clutch of 6, which are all still sitting here.
Yeah.
And if I kept all 9 of the Texas rats I got, 9 or 10 of the Texas rats I got this year, it would probably be more rat snakes. But half of those went to Kevin Sheehan because we split that clutch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Do you work with any other pythons, or is it just the balls?
It's just the balls right now.
Right now. Yeah.
For now.
Heard that.
I gotta say the chondros are really, really intriguing. And even if I don't even go towards breeding those, I think I'd keep some nice locality, maybe even the designer stuff, though I know they're quite expensive, but like they're just beautiful, man. I mean, the stuff's amazing.
I mean, it depends sort of if you're talking like, because I guess technically anything that isn't pure locality could be considered designer.
Yes.
But if you're talking like,
there's different levels,
lineated designer stuff, that's
yeah,
for sure.
So I do think it's funny that when referring to chondros, it's like, oh, anything that isn't pure locality can be considered designer. That's a nice word. I'm not knocking chondros at all. But with carpets, if it's not pure locality, it's a mutt. Like, and that's just like, it's so funny to me how that's a thing, man. No, it's not bashing chondros at all.
The sooner you realize that chondro keepers are a higher class of people, the better.
It's just, if anything, I know, I respect it.
We're the Globo Gym of python breeders.
I'm not saying that. If anything, it's more of a bash on carpet people. Like, I'm not saying.
No, I agree.
We should call them designers.
I definitely the same thing where it's like it's completely fine if you're crossing all these chondros.
Maybe I think it's because when you cross chondros, you get something pretty. If you cross carpets,
make an ugly one. Yeah.
If you cross carpets, you're just unless it's jungle jack or not jungle jack,
gamma stuff,
like the gamma stuff, diamond jungles, all that. If it's a diamond jungle, it's not a mutt, it's a diamond jungle. Okay, get your facts right.
So forgive my ignorance. I only learned recently that with the chondros, there's actually, taxonomically speaking, there's 3 different species. Now with the carpets, because that's something I'm not aware of, how are they separated? Are they separated in like subspecies, or is it full species?
Subspecies. Okay. Yeah. Okay. They're all Morelia spilota, but then you have Variegata, which is, right now they're currently saying Darwins and IJs are the same thing, which I don't disagree with at all. So those are
Okay.
the Variegata. And you have coastals, which are McDowelly. Brettles aren't technically carpets, but they get lumped into there, Morelia Bredli. And then you've got inlands, and I feel like I'm forgetting something else.
Imbricata.
Yeah, Imbricata, jungles. So there's several, but yeah, they're all subspecies minus Brettles. Brettles are their own
full species.
Right.
Yeah, full species. They are Morelia Bredli minus the no spilota. But yeah, carpets. I mean, superior Morelia, but whatever. It's kind of that's it's funny. We went from carpets versus chondros as being the debate. Now it's the horn snake debate. Now that we're all Colubrid assholes.
We've fucking sold out, buddy.
Yeah, we're fully sold. I still have several carpets, not a lot, but I've got. I still have 8 carpets in a room full of almost 100 snakes, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't. It's funny though because chondros, it's designer.
Yeah, that's just. But I think, like I said, it's because like when you cross carpets, they're usually pretty mute unless it's something with jungle and diamond. Jungle and diamond always bring out stuff. Whatever. But people cross coastals and IJs and whatever. Then it's just they're mutts. It's like garbage mutts. So they're all dinkers. Is that still a ball python term, dinker?
Yes.
The only normal in the clutch is a dinker.
Well, I mean, let's kind of. I want to get into that a little bit because, as we were saying before we started, I was telling Joe, I was like, you're the kind of person in the hobby that it just fascinates me because you've seen both sides of that fence, and it's like I gotta have someone tell me what it was like over there because I mean I don't plan on never going over there. We've talked about it plenty of times before. Like we don't have any issues with ball pythons. They're an easy target, so obviously we like to give them a hard time, but they are still snakes. There are still plenty of morphs that I think are really cool looking. Couldn't tell you what the hell they are, but I appreciate them for what they are. But sort of starting in colubrids and then getting into balls and then sort of dipping a toe outside back. Like what's that?
Yeah. So
I mean, what's the navigation like on that as far as like two different worlds in a sense? Because KZ Cannon says it best. He's like ball pythons at this point are kind of like their own hobby entirely. It's kind of its own industry entirely. It's its own thing.
So here's what I could say from my perspective going into it. I've always been enamored with the genetic mutation stuff, and we talked about him a little bit before we started the show. I mean, Brian Barczyk. With what's going on right now, I feel so horrible about it. I was watching snake bites back when I was way younger in my early teens when I started that pet store job. And that's actually where I started learning about ball python mutations. But where the game has elevated to where it is now, it was nowhere near that 10 years ago. Like you don't see, like there wasn't stuff close to what you see now back then. When I started getting into the ball pythons, I saw all these bright, beautiful, colorful snakes. And I was overwhelmed. I deep dove. And there was also this aspect of, kind of starting your own business with it. And I know money and making money from these reptiles can be a touchy subject with some people, but it's a fact of the industry. Is there are people who do this for a living. There are people who make money, and big respect to I'll say Clint Bartley. He's talked about it openly on Colubrid and Colubroid, and I give him props because I feel like some of the people in the Colubrid community who are like, it's not about the money, it's about loving these things. But like Clint has made a successful business and living out of this. So there was that aspect too, and I've always been business minded. I went to school for business, and and like I said, as I was growing up and working that job, I was always like, I always had this dream. I was like, oh, I want to breed these reptiles. Like that would be amazing to do for a living, right? Like I've been wanting to work with animals forever. I wanted to be the vet. That didn't work out. I was like, maybe there's something like I could work towards eventually, like on a very slow pace, but maybe eventually. So I joined in the ball python craze. I joined in when the ball pythons were going crazy. I joined in on the high. I spent a lot of money on, relatively cool animals. I have some cool genetics working in my collection right now, and I can safely say I'm still excited about the projects I'm in. The market right now doesn't excite me, though I know it's going throughout the entire reptile industry. And then more so, besides the market, the actual people in ball pythons are starting to disinterest me and push me away more and more. Between the filtered pictures, like, dude, me and some of my buddies can see it from a mile away. But what I do have to also say is ball pythons kind of gave me everything that I have right now. My social media presence, even some of the like YouTube presence I have, because I was a part of a panel podcast. I've been on some other things. And so I have to owe it to ball pythons to being where I am currently. And it's still going to be in my future. But, I've even had the thoughts of like, hey, maybe should I reduce some of these projects and really only work these projects I'm super passionate about, and some of these like more higher end projects that like I'm like really jacked for, and maybe focus a little bit more on the colubrid since I'm really so crazed about these guys. So it's been an internal struggle, and honestly the last few days is when this has really come out more and more, and just seeing what I'm seeing from my side. But again, I could also say the ball pythons have given me very good friends in the reptile hobby. I moved to Florida at a bad age. My best friends right now down here are my ball python friends, are my snake friends. And even you guys being able to talk to you guys all the time, like it's awesome. So I owe a lot to the reptile hobby as a whole.
Yeah, it's kind of the paradox of balls, it's like as much as everyone kind of wants to dunk on them and stuff, it's like they're also responsible for a hell of a lot of people getting into it in the first place, and then seeing other stuff and expanding from that. And, again, with Brian and everything that's going on with that, I've been pretty open at the fact that I haven't been a big fan of his. I watched his stuff early on as well and enjoyed it. And then over time, it slowly just, I was into it less and less.
Yeah, and I could say that too. I lost touch with it over the last few years. I definitely have not watched nearly as much as I used to watch the backlogs. I would just click through every video on the channel when it was snake bites, and then as it evolved, a little less and less.
Yeah. And objectively, regardless of where I sit, as far as his videos and sort of the things that have occurred over the years, there's no denying that the guy had a single-handedly made huge impacts as far as getting people, like introducing people to the hobby and getting stuff into them. So I mean, I have to give credit there. And
I mean, 1000%. It's I think Chris said it best on your podcast, Joe. We have a lot to credit ball pythons and that community. I am one of those people that my first snake that survived longer than 2 months,
Spurge,
was a ball python. And I love that snake. Ball pythons are they're the species that I found out that you could breed snakes. Like they were the species I was initially focused on. Granted, I never moved past having one at a time. I almost did at one point. I was supposed to get another one when I was much younger, but didn't work out. But they are the reason that I found out about breeding snakes and that being a thing. And along those lines, Brian Barczyk is also the reason I found out breeding snakes was even a thing. Back when I was younger, I thought, I saw snakes as just being like, oh, some people keep snakes and you just have them. It never occurred to me that people reproduce these things. And when I found out about that being a thing, it was just mind blowing, and it was all I ever wanted to do. It took a very long time for me to do it because living at my parents' house, being in college, yada, yada, yada. I never actually did it until 2019 was the first time I bred snakes. So it's that we have so much to credit to ball pythons. Yes, we as colubrid people, we rag on ball python keepers just because it's fun. But guess what?
Yeah.
Ball python keepers rag on our cheap ass snakes.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and if I may, and Justin, I know you were saying kind of like, ball pythons have become their own thing, like in the market, but when ball pythons are undeniably the most popular pet snake in the world and the most readily bred, it's like a gateway drug into the reptile hobby for so many people. So that's the other thing about ball pythons that people can't forget is that that's what it's done for all of us. I bet there's a ton of people who got a ball python as their first pet, and then they got a corn snake and they got something else, and it kept going like that. So
and that's, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. That was the thing. Like, I would bet 90, if not 98% of the entire reptile hobby either started with a ball python or a corn snake.
Yep.
Now it's all about which route did you go after that? Which one of those intrigued you more and made you look more into it? And now I would go as far as say over 90% of reptile keepers started with one of those and blossomed from there, kind of chose what path they would go down as a keeper, and I would say the majority were probably ball pythons. I was in that same boat. The first snake I ever kept as a pet was a corn snake, at least semi long term. That did not last long. And then it was a ball python. So I was on both sides of that fence, and first snakes I ever interacted with were corn snakes, and ball pythons just had such a big, were such a big factor in so many people's lives, as far as getting into this, and I think Brian Barczyk is one of the big reasons for that. That's what he was known for, especially back in the day. I remember watching him when I was a teenager, not even having, a very young teenager, not even having snakes yet. Watching him, and it was very, very ball python oriented.
Yep.
And we have, thoughts and prayers to him and his family, man. I mean, this is it's heartbreaking what's going on with him right now, and he's all in our thoughts, and regardless of what you think about him, because I agree, the videos got sensationalized, but let's face it, they were back then too. We were just younger and didn't care. So, and that's how everybody sees it now, just because it's different than what it was back then. It's still the same for that 12, 13-year-old kid that just found him for the first time. It's the same thing. And we have him to credit for so much. I would go to say thousands of people, he's the sole reason they found reptiles in the first place. And, that there's a lot to say to that. And, my heart goes out to him and his family, man. It's terrible. But
and when I say like ball pythons being their own thing, I mean in the sense of breeding, like breeders and that like the whole economics of it.
No. I
obviously there's a lot of people that yes got their first snake, it was a ball python, or they got a couple snakes and it was ball pythons, and then they eventually sort of branched out from there, but it's wild. It's been crazy just to see the evolution of the whole thing, even from the beginning, with those original albinos and things like that. It's unbelievable that you can get from point A to point B with realistically only a handful of animals,
Yes.
It's wild. It's crazy.
When I first discovered ball pythons, piebalgs were still $3,000 to $5,000, a piece. And where that has come between then and now, and what is actually not that long of a time, I'm not that old, but as a young teenager, 15 years ago, seeing as 15 years ago a piebald dropped from 5,000 plus to maybe
150, 200.
Really? I thought it was more than that,
Normal pies will go for 150 all day.
That's insane, and and just an albino back then was $300, $400, $500. You can probably pick those up for less than $100 now,
Right. Yeah, 1 to 150.
That's crazy, man. But I mean the evolution behind balls is kind of insane. What has happened in the last 15 years with them, but hell, even the last 5 to 10 years.
What's even crazier is that a lot of the genes that are around now and are becoming more prevalent have been around for a very long time. They just took very, very long to gain the traction, and they weren't put into the right combos. And then it's like a joke nowadays that every time Kabelka puts out a video, it's like that gene explodes, whatever it is. And something that's funnily getting hated on, if there's any ball python people, is pastel, because it does ruin some combos, arguably. If Justin made a video about pastel, everyone would be buying pastel tomorrow. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But people are still buying it anyway.
Yeah, I remember pastels were huge when I was first getting into it.
Yeah,
they were the next morph to get. After you had your normal, you'd get a pastel, baby. Come on now.
I have noticed over the last 3 to 5 years or so that people overall, it seems like there's a general sort of exodus from the focus on ball pythons, and people are starting to look at other stuff outside of that sphere and really start to explore other species and things like that.
Besides that, there's also the COVID breeder recession exodus.
Yeah, I mean, what have you seen? Like, would you agree with that? Seeing that circle, with balls and things like that, you see a lot of people sort of moving on to other stuff or just getting out.
Definitely see people posting a new species here and there. It's not as prevalent as you'd think. Like, some people will pick them up just for pets or whatever here and there, but it's still like balls to the wall, no pun intended, on ball pythons. And then you go on Facebook and some of these ball python groups, there's a new collection being posted by the day for sale. No joke.
I believe it, man. Yeah. Jeez. You go on Craigslist here, dude, because I check
especially here in Florida,
dude. There's so many ball pythons on Craigslist, it's insane. Like, it's wild. And there was even locally, there's been some people that have gotten out of balls entirely. Like, that was like their whole thing was ball pythons, and they've gotten out of those because of just selling and the market and being able to move things was just getting so difficult. They decided to just switch gears entirely. And I mean, yeah, like COVID, that's been a question I've asked myself, and is like, is the market really the market, quote unquote? It's a term I semi hate. Is it really down, or are we just so used to COVID where people were buying like crazy because they had
it's a correction
income? Yeah.
Is it down, or is it back to normal,
or is it how it was before? Right.
Like, let's face it, like
certain things tanked, like actually tanked, and certain things are getting corrected, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You know, let's
Like what?
Again, I keep talking from the ball python side, and we don't have to talk about this all night, I promise. But certain genes, certain combos, like DG Clown, Desert Ghost Clown, has
Yeah.
been one of the biggest things. Like it was 10 grand 2 years ago. Ones have sold for 2,500 this year. Like
Wow.
that, which is it. They are a beautiful, amazing animal, but everyone bought into DG Clown, and I don't even want to say like it's wrong because so many are being made, so many people are working that project. What people aren't doing is putting other incomplete dominant genes in there, and they're just making straight DG Clowns and just flooding that market, or just putting pastel in it. Which again, sorry to rag on it, but pastel and super pastel DG Clowns. You know, you see it all over the place. It's like, you know, there's not much room for growth there.
No, and that's the thing about like the next cool thing, you know. It's like doesn't matter how high you price it, somebody's gonna buy it, you know, and other people are gonna buy it, and next thing you know, there's gonna be a lot more people with that gene, and then those people aren't as well known, so they price them lower than the next guy just to get a little attention, little leg room. And then everybody's like, "Oh, this guy priced it at this. Let me drop mine down to that." And then it's a domino effect, you know. And but that's not just a ball python thing, you know. That's with everything, you know.
Yeah.
Anything that starts really high evidently comes.
Well, it's a supply and demand, obviously.
Exactly.
It's
the
basic laws of that.
And now there's huge supply for some of the stuff that there wasn't 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
It turns into, it doesn't turn into finding one. It turns into who am I going to buy one from? You know, and when it comes to that, unless you look in depth into breeders, it's going to come down to price. And that's how people get the sales.
I will say that is
certain people are motivated by price only, and those are in my opinion, like the people who are just in there for the money. And then there are some people who will go for the breeder or go for the highest quality animal, and then maybe try to work that price down based on what else is going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I could say sometimes it's hard to come across. I don't want to say to like you guys, but like talking to non-ball python people, I've been living in this mindset for the last couple of years, and the way I see and think about things, like I look at things from, you know, and I know you said you hate the word, I look at things from that market perspective. And like when you're talking ball python projects, like you have to think like 3 years ahead. You have to think 5 years ahead if you want to stay ahead or stay even semi-even with the curve. Because if you think about right now, you're gone, you lost. And that's how these people are, that's why these people are failing right now. And it's really unfortunate because, and I've said it on my show a lot of times, so many people in the last couple of years that got in it for the absolute wrong reasons, and it was for that quick money grab. Now I could say I lean both ways, because I actually do enjoy the ball pythons, and I have projects I am very excited about. I like the genetics I'm working with. Was there that money aspect in there that I thought about as well? Yes. Did I spend a lot of money? Yes. And you'd probably cringe at some of the amounts I've spent over the last couple of years, but you know, it is what it is. I've done what I've done, but you know, like I said earlier, I may, you know, reconsider the structuring of my collection and see what can go, what I really want to keep. And you know, it's also breeding season now too, so got to see, you know, what comes out this year.
That's the you know, the whole term, the market and stuff. It's one of those things where I'm split on that as well, where it's like, is there really a market? And it's sort of at its in reality, yes, there, like, a market exists. If we're selling things, be it alive or not, there's a market for it. And just like anything else economically, there's going to be times where things are great. There's going to be times where things are bad. The money aspect to it, I've said for a long time now, it's like if you're doing this as a business, even if it's as a side hustle, it's not your main source of income, it's just paying for itself, whatever, yeah, it's not about the money, but if you're doing it in that regard, like it has to be a little bit about the money.
That's the thing. I almost hate, granted, yes, we can probably all sit here and say it's not about the money. We don't do this because, and when I think when most people say that, they say it in the fact of, oh, I don't want to get rich. Like this isn't some fucking pyramid scheme that we're all trying to make a ton of money on.
Yeah.
But you're lying to yourself if you don't say it's kind of about money when it comes to sales, because like you want to sell babies, and yes, you want this to pay for itself. If you tell me you want this to pay for itself, it's kind of about the money. It's not. No, it
doesn't have to be the sole reason, but it does play a factor. Like
that's what I mean.
It has a hand in it.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I had a conversation with Billy today. Like I was kind of running this all by him. I was telling him, I was like, and he kind of like chilled me out about it. He was like, dude, if you keep the species you like, you can make it pay for itself. I was like, do I have to make all the money in the world? No. Would it be nice to make a little bit? Yeah, sure. But what is it probably going to do? Good, and go reinvest in something else in the hobby.
Exactly. If I've been doing this, a long time now, and I'm nowhere close to this crap paying for itself. That's why I work a second job. I work a second job to fund this, and that's fine for now. In a few years when a lot more things are popping and going, yeah, I kind of expect this to hopefully pay for itself. And in that aspect, yes, it kind of is about money. Do I do this for a living and want to make a bunch of money doing it? No, I don't expect any overhead. If there is overhead, it's going to go back into upgrading stuff. I don't want to pocket money from this until I retire from my day job, and I don't want to work a real job. Like that's just, and that's just how it is. It's not about the money in the fact of I don't want to make a living, but it is in the fact that you want it to pay for itself, and that's fair. You're not a bad person for feeling that way. Hell, you're not a bad person if you want to make this a full-time job. But there's lines. Once your care drops because you're trying to make $1, that's when it's not okay anymore, and you need to find a different outlet. But
and it is tough. I mean, the closest thing I can relate to as far as the ball python stuff is corns. I've got a lot of babies still from this year that I've talked to some wholesalers, and I've tried to just lighten the load a little bit and just cut back on some mouths to feed, and it's been tough. Like, and it's again, is it that things really are down, or is it because we're just post-COVID extra money kind of thing? So
and that's the corns aren't that far off from balls in that aspect of there's a lot of corns out there. So a lot of people breeding corns, and you can even say the market, quote unquote, is saturated, and it can be a little harder at times to sell a large amount. And
well, it's interesting too, because you see such conflicting results for people. So like Eric Westmoreland, who does this full time, you ask him, it's like, how was your year? And he'll be like, it was fine. Like I sold plenty of stuff. Like it wasn't an issue. It wasn't bad. People were buying. You talk to someone like myself or Chris, and they'll be like, it's been really tough. And granted, I can't really complain about it too much. I haven't put that much effort into trying to get stuff sold.
And that was going to be my rebuttal to that. It's all about it's effort that you put into it. If you're like, I kind of just want to give all these to friends, then you're not going to make nearly as many sales as the guy that's posting his shit every day. It's
just interesting that you can have people can have such different experiences in the same time, and even the same show. Like you talk to guys at Daytona, some of them were like, "This was really really rough. This year sucked. Didn't sell much of anything." And then you talk to another guy who was 2 rows over, and he's like, "Dude, I almost sold out of everything. Like it was great." And it's just, to me, that's the economics of herpetoculture and species and morphs and things like that. Just has always fascinated me, and I it's really interesting to watch. And then to see something like that too, where it's like you can have 2 tables and breeders both selling corn snakes, and one did great, one did not great, and it's wild to me, just how the whole thing works, the whole machine.
Yeah.
That's how it is. We relate to this because we're into reptiles, but that's how it is with anything. There's some t-shirt companies that sell more t-shirts than others, and why is that?
Yeah, who knows? I mean,
it's with anything. It's just life, unfortunately. If everybody could do it, everybody would be doing it. But it's just, there's highs and lows, and at the end of the day, you gotta love this.
Peaks and valleys.
Yes, and you gotta love this. That's why we always say it's not about the money, because goddamn, you gotta love this with everything you got, because it'll take a lot out of you.
You know what else I find really fascinating is you can have stuff like, well, I guess it's not really odd necessarily, but like cresteds, corns, balls, all that stuff. The supply and demand effect is definitely more drastic over a span of time. But then you look at things that have a hurdle. So like chondros, rhino rats, stuff that isn't necessarily hard to keep, but there's a hurdle, and that hurdle is babies, getting them established. So I wonder a lot of the time too. It's like, if rhino babies were easier to get going, like how different would that landscape be in terms of like availability and people breeding them and stuff. Same with green trees. It's like, I think those species are always going to be in demand to a degree, maybe a higher degree than some of those other species. But I think it's because of that. It's that hurdle. There's that one thing about that species that holds people back from really breeding them on any sort of large scale. And if you look at, you see that in pretty much anything like that. I think like rough scales are a good example. Same thing. It's like there's not a ton of them. And it's like babies are tricky. Take your pick. It's just the stuff that's like either harder to breed or requires more attention and more intricacy, or the stuff that's harder to get established. Like those are always the stuff that like there's people always looking to buy. Like I'm confident that if I produce chondros again, I'm not going to have a hard time having people like finding buyers. Like there's always going to be people wanting to buy captive bred chondros.
And I think more than anything, it's a supply and demand thing. Whether it's people can't breed chondros, whether people can't get them established as babies, whatever, it all comes down to supply and demand. And
but there's just that thing that stops it from really the doors being blown off of them.
Yeah, exactly. But that's also like, it's easier for guys that are focused on stuff like that. I think it's easier for them to have a quote unquote good year because they probably don't produce as many animals. And when they sell one, the yield is much, much higher than your corn snake. How many corn snakes you got to sell to make $10,000? A lot of corns. How many chondros you got to sell to make $10,000? 4 max, sometimes 1. So it's all in perspective and what you enjoy keeping. And again, a lot of it comes down to supply and demand. The guy that has chondros when nobody else does is going to have a great year, and the guy that produced the same corns that Eric Westmoreland did may not, so it's all in perspective. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you really got to keep what you love, and that right there is exactly why. You're gonna get burnt out if you're just chasing. If you're chasing a dollar, you're gonna get burnt out with this. You're not gonna enjoy it. So,
I've heard you mention a few times, like you have a partner in the Meteoric.
Not necessarily. It's my brother. It's my little brother.
Okay.
The other person's name, Nick, on my Instagram page, on the back of my business card. It's my little brother. Especially when we got into the ball pythons, like we said, we were doing this together. At that point, we were kind of splitting snakes like evenly, monetarily. It's come to the point where I really do everything. I mean, and that's fine. I do everything. I pay for everything at this point. He's there. He helps me out with certain things. He's my FedEx guy in the mornings to go pick up that new snake at FedEx. He'll I've sent a couple t-shirts out. He'll drop stuff off, when I'm working. So, and I work from home nowadays a lot. So either way, I can't like leave my computer for that long. But either way, just those little things. Yeah, so it helps. When I was at school, so when we moved down to Florida, I had a year of school left, and we didn't have nearly the amount of animals we had now, but he took care of them that whole year. And it was really the rat snakes and a few ball pythons at that time, but even still, so got to give him credit where credit's due. He helps me out in certain ways and helped kickstart what this has become. So.
Dude, I tell you, there's something to be said just for an extra set of hands for that little nitpick stuff.
Oh, dude,
going to FedEx, changing a couple water dishes. Like, hey, come in the room with me for 10 minutes and we bust out double the animals.
When we spend a day doing full tub cleans on a bunch of things, having 2 people, dude, unreal. We did it. We finally did it once, and I have never cleaned that many tubs that fast. I was just like, this is amazing. We got to do this every time. The stars don't align all the time because we both work. Like he's a server, so like he works all the time at like weird times and other stuff. So but yeah.
No, man, there's definitely something to be said for that.
Yeah, the partnership thing always just seems, I don't know. It's one of those things where it can either go really well or it can go horribly wrong.
It's just, I think the biggest thing with it is having the ground rules laid out,
the expectations set out,
percentages of as far as income are concerned, keeping track of what's what. That way nobody gets butthurt about nothing.
Yeah, like that time Jake made me get Amazon tree boas.
That's where we're going. That's where we're going. You want to do that? You want to do that?
Yes.
We went halvesies on those. You kept them and you killed all of them.
I didn't.
And what did I get? What did I get?
Nothing.
No, you did. You did.
They passed away under my purview.
Every single one of them. Okay. At that time, it wasn't
my fault.
And I'm not saying it was. I'm not blaming you.
You're kind of making it.
No.
You have a tone.
No. You brought it up. You brought it up. Don't.
Okay.
Don't go there. We don't talk about the Amazons, Justin. That was our one joint project, wasn't it? That was the one time we went in on something together, and it just went absolutely horrible.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
I'd do it again.
I wouldn't.
Oh,
you can have them. Yeah. You want Amazons again, buddy? That's all you, my guy.
I have the itch, but I'm just gonna suffer and not scratch it yet.
It's probably for the best.
Time has to be right. Because Randy keeps posting some of these damn Amazons he's got, and Jeremy Turgeon keeps posting some of these Amazons.
Dude, that clutch
they're making this so difficult.
Dude, that clutch Jeremy had, oh my god. Like, you want to talk about some Amazons, boy?
That just seems like a species, like, I just want to breed them once, just to see it all. You know, it's like I don't want to go crazy. It'd just be cool to like, I'm gonna put a pair together. I want to see babies come out alive and not have eggs. Like, you know, it's just different from the other stuff.
Yeah.
But
well, speaking of that, Joe, back to you. Justin and I go on.
Quit hijacking the conversation.
Yeah, because
all good.
I did that for sure. So talking about species, you know, obviously let's change gears from this silly Python talk a little bit. So what's your, you know, you mentioned Texas rats. I think anybody who knows you knows you're mostly Texas rats right now. You mentioned the porfs. So I guess you can clarify what's your main focus in colubrids right now, and do you see a shift coming anytime soon, or like kind of what species you want to add as far as colubrids?
What's on the radar?
What's on the radar? What's the focus now, and then what's on the radar?
Well, you guys know what's on the radar, but I'll get into all of it.
Well, we know, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Texas rats are my first love. The day I give up Texas rats, I think will be the day I die. Honestly, it's what got me into it. I don't think there will ever be a point where I don't have them. And all I have to say is with the animals I have, I'm just really excited to keep the train rolling on those. I still think so. They are bred on, I'd say, a bit more of a commercial level with like pet sellers than on this more private keeper who's like just really into species and stuff. And now I know I do work with the morphs, like the scaleless stuff, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. But man, there's some beautiful animals there. I produced some beautiful scaleless Texas rats this year, and I can't wait to see where those projects go. Some other genetics, trying to work towards like a world's first on a gene with scaleless. I'm in the race for that at least. So cross my fingers I could get there. That'll take another few years for sure. But let's see. And then yeah, definitely I like the porfs. I'd like to get more of those guys. So I keep Coxeye and Violenti. And the Coxeye, in my opinion, are really just the most through and through beautiful throughout their entire life. They keep the brightest oranges and the jet black racing stripes forever. It's quite unfortunate that the other three don't look as good as adults. But with that said, the babies are still cool as shit. The Violenti, when I saw those, I was telling you guys beforehand. So I bought those from Billy at Daytona, and they were from Matt Most. I didn't know they looked that good in person. So when I saw them, I was like, oh shit. And then I did my walk-bys. I saw them on the first day, and I just kept stopping by the table. And then last minute of the show, finally walked away with them. So I got a pair of those. Those are cool. And just as something I'm seeing, like even without the mutations, just like the natural beauty of that species, like just think about it. We're talking about a bright orange, non-venomous snake.
They look almost fake.
And I brought my adult female just literally as an attention grabber to the Orlando Repticon show, and the amount of people who said that looks fake, it's so shiny, that's amazing. My snake, I had a couple people tell me that's the best thing I've seen at the show, and they were like, how much would you take for that? And I jokingly told them, I said $1,000, but I said that's not even worth it because I'd lose all that time because she's ready to breed. I said I wouldn't even take 1,000, but yeah, I mean, those guys are just awesome. And then, so the Horizon, the one snake I've been looking at on Facebook since probably 2015, 2016. You got them, Justin, the Rhino Rats. And
fuck you, Jake.
Seriously, I saw that snake and I was like, I need to have those one day. But the only reason I never got them in the past was because I always heard how hard they are to get established, how weird they could be as babies. So I never pulled the trigger. I even messaged a guy about them who said he could deliver to Daytona, and he said, you know what? It's probably not the right time. Then of course I meet Billy that weekend. That's when me and Billy started becoming friends. You know, we talk about it, then we talk about it on my show, and he basically convinced me. He's like, Joe, you keep porfs, you keep Asian rat snakes, like you can keep these guys. Like you can do it. If you're keeping those others and they're doing well, you can keep rhino rats. I was like, that was the one thing I needed to be like, okay, it's time. And I've been waiting and waiting for the right breeder, the right animal to come along. And then 2 minutes after Dan Sheehan posted a picture, Justin tagged me on it, and 5 minutes later, I sent a deposit for that snake. So I have a rhino rat coming. 2021 female, produced by Terry Burwell.
Perfect. I was like, hey, Joe.
Well, this has been episode 207 of THP. No, man, that's awesome though. You know, I saw your, I saw you secured your rhino, and I was very happy for you. That's
thank you.
Cool. You know,
yeah, Terry's stuff is top notch too. I've got a handful of rhinos from him, and they're all flawless.
Yeah, I actually hit him up because I was like, hey man, I've been somewhat of a lineage nerd, and I know the rhinos can be a little variable. I'm not going to say they're like anything like chondros, but like I know, you know, they have some variances. I was like curious if you can try to find the records and parents of these guys just for my, you know, knowing. And he was like, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I thought that snake looked familiar. I'll get working on it. If I don't get back to you, just bother me about it. I haven't heard back from him, which is fine. But yeah, that was cool of him to even, you know, take the time to answer me, and that he'll look for it. So
yeah, dude, Terry's like one of the most down to earth dudes.
Yeah,
he's got an awesome collection. He's doing a bunch of really cool stuff.
I want to get him on THP this year for sure at some point.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I don't know. Was he on during my sabbatical?
I think he might have been.
Yeah, probably.
I'll have to go back and look.
Sad.
But yeah, I mean, the rhinos, like, you definitely, I've noticed you have some that are sort of the deeper green, like more of an evergreen kind of tone with, you know, maybe a little bit more of a bluish sort of hue to them. And then you definitely have like the limey, like lighter green ones.
Yes.
You know, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if that's like a sort of a locality lineage type deal where some are coming from like Vietnam versus China or something. But I know like the ones Matt produced over the years definitely were that deeper green, and Terry's, I think, similar, you know, that sort of darker green. And
so what I've been seeing that I also like is that kind of like black and white you see between the scales, those black and white pigmentations, which are on the snake that I'm getting. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then they take a bit to go through like their full change. Like, do you think that one's done? Or do you think it still has like maybe a little more to go?
No, I think that one probably
still
probably has a little bit to go.
Cool.
As far as like sort of the adult coloration and stuff, I think is almost sort of fully set in.
Yeah.
And then it just seems like over time you kind of just get like a darkening, like they get that the greens just get deeper, you know.
Got it.
But they're awesome. Look, Jake's falling asleep. He's talking about rhinos.
No, I'm just over here thinking like, oh, with rhinos, you have some that have this subtle blue, a little bit of blue. I'll show you a blue snake.
My adult female, it ain't
fair
at all, dude. Her belly, her stomach is baby blue. It's ridiculous.
You ever seen a powder blue Barons? I've seen all your rhinos. None of them as blue as a blue Barons, my friend. But yeah.
So what temperature are you keeping the porfs?
So yeah, it's an interesting question actually, and I think people are surprised by my answer. So I keep everything in my garage, all my species, everything is within the same rack systems. I keep the porfs closest to the floor in a V18 rack, or it depends on the size of them, but at the moment, that's what most of them are in. So it ranges. During the summertime, it does get a bit warmer in here, and I was worried about it. However, I put a Govee in and I was tracking it. I was like, this might be okay. I'd say at the max, it gets like 78 to 80. And I know that might be blasphemous to, like, even saying 80 is blasphemous to porf breeders. So what I did, I originally had her in my room in a separate tank, in like a relatively small tank at the time. And I hated that she was even in there, but whatever. I moved her into a tub down here and I said, we're going to test this. So I moved her down, fed her, she ate. I fed her, she ate. Because I know with these guys, if they're not comfortable, they're not going to eat.
Right.
So as long as she kept eating, she was good. So, okay, that's one said and done. Then I got hatchling from Matt this year, hatchling male, cockeye. And I was like, this is going to be the real test because it's a hatchling. So it's like, it's either going to be hardy or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And it ate and it ate and it smashes food, and these guys are savages. Then I got the Violenti, which I know their locale gets a little bit cooler. You do have to brewmate them, which Matt told me. I wouldn't have known that otherwise.
Like at all ages? Or like adults,
like for breeding.
Okay.
For breeding. Yeah, you do have to brewmate them. I did cool them with my Texas rats as well, like just, part of that. But yeah, and they ate. My male is a little weird. He's one of those where I have to drop feed him, so I gotta drop the frozen thawed mouse in there and just leave it. The female will eat off tongs, but no problems here.
That's the only thing that stopped me from keeping those in mandarins, man, is like I was just always under the impression that I could, if I was going to keep them, it'd have to be in my bedroom where it's cooler. And I know that my wife would not appreciate that. And I just always kind of thought my room was just slightly too warm to really, where I just have problems, But at the same time, I mean, it's just kind of like what Billy said. Like if the rhinos and the persimmon are doing fine, then maybe.
And now, and I don't remember who even may have said it to me. I don't know where it was. Someone said like you may have a problem breeding, but like if they're eating, if they're doing good, there's not much telling me that they won't breed, especially the cockeye, because they do not brewmate. So they'll feel it because they're sitting ambient in my garage. So it does get cooler in here. It's cooler in here now than it is in the summer. So I think I'm good. And, I do still live at home with my parents. Eventually I will move out. And I don't know how much you guys have seen it and or have talked about it. I really committed to getting myself a Wilbanks incubator eventually because of the brumation setting. I mean, that thing's amazing. For any colubrid keeper, that seems like a no-brainer because you have
especially in Florida where like and down
here.
I
mean,
temperatures are just so all over the place everywhere.
Yeah, and whether or not I stay in Florida is still up for debate because I may go back up to New York, but we'll see. Either way, I think it's still a really cool tool to use, and why not?
Yeah, I remember looking at them when they first came out. I checked them out and just out of curiosity because I know there was like different sizes and stuff, and they look nice. Like they look legit.
So I don't know about this Wilbanks incubator. Is this like an incubator for cooling snakes down?
So it's both. It's dual function. It cools and it incubates, and then it's made to get down to brumation temperatures.
I got you.
So you could treat it as like they make them in all different size models, but you could basically treat it as your wine cooler or fridge for brumating, or you could treat it as your incubator. Because a lot of ball python breeders are just getting it because it's this brand new shiny tool. Yeah. But I see it for the brumation purposes, 1000%.
So what's the biggest size tub you can put in these? Because my biggest thing is that when I heard about the whole wine cooler thing, I was like, Oh man, that would be awesome. But when you have a
Can't fit a 6-foot
Yeah.
pine snake.
when you've got a
Yeah.
6.5 foot pine snake, it's not going to fit in a 6-quart shoebox.
Yeah,
So-
that's the thing.
Good,
So
it's
they
not gonna be
make it like a big almost sorry, my hands aren't showing. They make it like a big fridge size. So you could definitely fit tubs long ways. Do I know the dimensions off the top of my head? No. I don't want to say like go research it yourself, but I know the biggest one is definitely you could utilize that as a larger scale colubrid breeder.
If I could fit a 32-quart bin sideways in one, that would be adequate, because I don't.
The only thing is that they're big.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I'm sorry, they're expensive. They're expensive as shit.
I'm sure they are. I can only imagine. But that is a cool thing.
If you look at it, I can't help but giggle because the capacity is measured in ball python clutches.
Yep.
The biggest one holds 64 ball python clutches.
Yeah.
Let me see if it gives actual dimensions. They are. I mean, they look nice. I don't think I saw them. There weren't any at like Daytona.
I heard the like even for incubation, the variance is solid because there are some people who have bought them. I actually have a DIY incubator here, but for colubrids, I'm just gonna room temperature incubate, which is what I did this past year.
Put those suckers on the shelf, baby. I put them in my closet.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this.
It doesn't have actual dimensions. It just says. Oh, are you on there too?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, just because I'm curious. Well, hell, can't switch. Yeah, but again, it doesn't look wide enough to fit a larger tub. Which, well,
so here's my kind of thing
cram
with
them in there.
Well, I don't want to say cram them in there, but here's my kind of thing with brumation. Given the fact that they're in this dormant state, like not moving, like, do you feel the need to go that big on a tub?
No, but see,
I don't want to sound unethical by saying that.
Yeah.
So I hope no one takes that the wrong way. But even the tubs. So my shortened brumation is in my closet. I put them in I'm going to call them relatively smaller tubs that they wouldn't be in on a normal basis. They're smaller than a V70.
Yeah,
just for compaction purposes and fitting them somewhere.
Absolutely. And a lot of people do that. And I actually plan on doing that when, I put stuff in the garage, stuff that's in cages. Right now, I put my V70 on one of those little wheelie cart thingies, and I wheel the whole rack out there, which is, it's kind of cool, but it works, as far as the standalone tubs, I just take the tub out there. But stuff that's in cages, I plan on putting in a smaller bin. Now, the thing is, there's only so small you can go when a snake is so big. So my minimum, that's why I said 32 quart. My big pines right now are in V70s. They're going to be in bigger enclosures soon.
Okay.
But it's literally a matter of fitting in one with a water dish, because I do leave a water dish in there. These pine snakes are not fitting in anything smaller than a 32, at least comfortably. I have no problems putting them in something smaller. That's why I said if this can fit a 32 quart sideways, I'd be sold, because anything I keep could fit in one of those easily.
He had some nice captive bred Aru chondros for sale not long ago.
No.
So and then that what you're talking about also leads into my struggle of like, what direction do I want to go in with the colubrids? And it's like, what do I want to get into? I really love the Asian species. I can't lie. Ever since I started seeing those, I'm like, I gotta catch them all with these Asian species. But a bunch of them get so damn big. It's like, geez, like, where do I go? Like, I know even the mandarins, like, I feel like they're deceptive because I know they get long. Mollendorffi get big. King rats are huge. Like, so many of those snakes get rather large, so I would never want to put myself in the position. And even tub size, like I love V70s. I love anything that could fit in a V70. And then once you get bigger than that, I'm just like, that's a lot of space that you're taking up. Like just even footprint wise,
Yeah.
like in a room.
Right.
And sorry, I'm not like the rack versus cage thing. I would like to upgrade maybe some things to cages eventually. Like I love the rhino set I have Justin, and like mine will be going in a tub. I know I'm gonna kind of deck it out. I'm actually looking at David Brahms, the reptile perches. I'm gonna put a little perch in there so it could climb, a humid hide, all that jazz. But upgrading those guys to a cage eventually would be awesome. I just I struggle with the mindset of like, where the hell am I gonna put everything?
Yeah, and
The
that's
struggle is real.
I'm right there with you. You know, if it needs something bigger than a 4x2, then I'm probably out. You know,
Yeah.
like my ideal cage is a 3x2x18. But because I keep carpets, I'm big on vertical space. You know, I love 18 to 2 foot tall cages. But since I already keep carpets and stuff like that, stacking up 4 foot cages isn't going to make that much of a difference. Now, if I have 100 of them, that's a completely different story. But if you have a few things that take up those 4x2x18s, then I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and even right now, just in terms of expansion, like as I mentioned, I'm still in my parents' garage with the snakes, so it's like I'm quite limited at the moment. So I'm kind of with what I'm breeding this year, I'm kind of pushing it. I'll probably have to be like, hey, I have to get this rack, but hope they don't hear me, and hope I'm not too loud. But yeah, that's probably what it's gonna have to come down to is like, hey, I'm gonna have to get this rack. And good thing Sea Serpents is local because I love the V18 style racks, and I'll get those all day for hatchling snakes.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a good sized tub.
Yeah, man, and that's the Justin. When I was listening to your episode,
yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, the correct tub sizes are V15, V18, and then V35.
Yes, thank you.
It's V35S, but it's 15, 18, 35S. That's the progression on
same thing.
No,
close enough.
You said V11. That doesn't exist.
No, he said V12. I think he said 12. I think he said 12 or 10 or some shit.
I said 5, 11.
He was jumping everywhere.
I said the FB5s because that's the Freedom Breeder model. Yes, that I know. It's the FB5 is the V15.
Yeah, that's the Freedom Breeder version, which I actually like the Freedom Breeder tubs more than I bought V35
like water bowl holders.
Yes, I do.
Ugh. They're nice. They're nice.
I'm telling you, man.
I hate them so much.
On the bigger tubs, I'm kind of about it. On those size tubs, I do like it. The nice small deli cups is very convenient.
So I bought I don't remember the exact size because I've memorized Freedom Breeder tubs as well. But it's the V35S version for Freedom Breeder. And I bought them because they had cup holders, because I had a lot of Pituophis that were flipping their water dishes constantly. Right. And that was full bedding changes, all this and that. And it was annoying the hell out of me. So do I prefer having a water dish or a cup holder in the tub? No. But does it work very, very well? Yes. Like I would much rather be able to move it around. If they could put that cup holder in the left corner of the tub.
If they were smart, they'd make it like magnetic to where you could move it.
Yeah, that would be awesome too, but I'm big on stationary cup holders, man. If I could switch every tub I've got to a cup holder tub, then I'm sold. Other than the V70s, because I like big dishes when it comes to V70. I don't like the 16-ounce cups,
Well, you know what they're made for, right? They're made for ball pythons that don't need a big water dish, and respectfully so. I use the I don't know if you guys have them or know the KT bowls. I love those, the ceramic bowls. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are my favorite things in the world that come in a billion different sizes. I use like this very, I guess they're all circular, but it's like a smaller circle, but like kind of large, and it's a little tall for the balls, the ball pythons. And then all the rat snakes, I have the much wider circles that aren't like super deep, but they can sit and bathe in it when they want to.
I tell you, the best thing I did for larger water dishes. So I was using these regular dog bowls that you get at Walmart, and then I bought plastic Tupperware containers that almost fit them perfectly, but they could fall in them a little bit. And I found these other dog bowls at, I don't know if you guys have Food Lion. We have Food Lion here.
No.
Found these dog bowls. I found these dog bowls at Food Lion. They're a little bit bigger at the base, but they have a rubber edge, that can actually come off, but it's got a rubber edge. And the inserts that I have, like the plastic bowls, fit in them perfectly. Don't move at all.
Interesting.
And it's way harder for the snake to move them because of that rubber on the bottom. It's harder to push. And I'm switching everything that had a regular dog bowl to those because they fit so perfectly. It's way easier to get the insert out. The way I work everything is I have a million delis of the sizes I use, and I wash them in my dishwasher. I put all the used ones in there. Every time I change water, it gets a new one. It's sped up my water changes. I'm not sitting there waiting on cups to disinfect with spray. Yeah. It's cleaner, it's faster, brand new cup every time, and you're not wasting a bunch of plastic. That was the best move I ever did with keeping this stuff, man. It works perfectly. But I'm big on cup holders. If I can have a cup holder for every damn thing in this room, I'm gonna do it. Most of them don't. It's really only for the big stuff because it's a lot easier for them to flip over their plastic cups. But yeah, whatever.
Gotcha.
So, what was the motivation for starting the podcast?
Yeah, so I felt like, so I was a part of all these groups and group chats and whatnot, ball python related, and watching, not necessarily watching, but seeing a lot of content that was just totally circled around a lot of ball pythons and other species. And I just felt that in my space, in the community that I was in, that people just didn't know about colubrids, like at all. Like they know what a corn snake is. They've seen them at shows, but they don't know things like the porphs exist. And I have those porphs, and I would show them off. And when I would show them off, people were just like, "Oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever seen." And I'm like, yeah, I've known about these things for years. I've had them for years, and like, they're awesome. And I wanted to bring that education to that crowd. I've always said since I started it, it was like, that's what I kind of want my show to be. Yes, it's for colubrid people, of course, because I'm bringing on a bunch of different guests, but it's to help bridge that gap for people who just don't know that some of these species exist. And you guys, and I'll be straight up, like, I'm learning every single episode. You guys have just ignited my passion more and more for these colubrids. Like, you guys have no idea what this has done for me. And then talking to people, like I said, I met Billy at Daytona. Like I basically pitched him the idea. I was like, hey, I've been thinking about doing this. I was like, what do you think? And he was like, dude, I think that's really cool. And maybe that was more once we were talking a little bit on Instagram here and there, back and forth. But yeah, that's really where it came from. And I had a lot of people like pushing me. I pitched the idea to my friends, and they thought it was a cool idea. And I got people in my corner who have my back. So I was like, hey, this might be a good idea. So I said, screw it. The same thing about YouTube. Like, I started YouTube. I have YouTube videos, and I haven't really posted videos much. I'm definitely going to get back into the swing of that. With the stuff out of brumation and breeding season coming.
I always say I'm going to do more YouTube stuff too, because I would sprinkle that in periodically with our stuff, but I just
Yeah.
Finding
No,
the
I
energy and motivation to edit and stuff like that. I can't.
Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed it. Like it was cool. I just I ran dry on topics and stuff to do it on. But now that, all the Texas rats are back, all these other colubrids, like there's cool videos I can make, especially with the ball pythons. My ball python videos got the most attention, of course. Like I did like a ball python collection tour video, which got close to 1,000 views, which is pretty good for me. And even like pulling my first ball python clutch, pulling the girl off the eggs, like me literally just pulling the eggs, nothing else, got close to 1,000 views as well. So like all that stuff was motivating me, and I really, it's all about just saying screw it, just go ahead and do it. Because I had people that were like, if you're gonna do it, you got to just do it, like rip that band-aid off. And do it.
A lot
but
of
with
people
the
overthink it. Like a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of people,
100%.
like they put too much effort into trying to figure out what they're going to do a video on, and then it just doesn't happen. And it's like,
yeah,
like I did a lot of the chondro videos, and a lot of that was just based off a lot of the questions I get from people, as far as like housing for babies and like shed issues, so, all the things that are likely to be something that people are going to come across. And then if I ever got a question about it, I'd be like, oh, I did a video on it, check this out. And if you have any questions after watching that, like hit me up, just made that whole thing a little easier to, instead of typing out all that stuff, I'm like, here's a 10-minute video on how I set up babies. And again, like watch it. And then if you have questions afterwards, like, or if you just want to talk, like hit me up, it's more passive way of getting information to people, I guess.
Yeah. And then with the podcast, I really just said like this, you have to be committed to it, because it's like if you don't do this consistently, like it's just not going to work. And I know that. I know that's how that game works. Also, again, on the ball python side, like it's that the podcast market is cluttered. There's so much out there. I interfere with a few on that side, and I know part of my viewership are ball python people, so it was like whatever. But that's besides the point. And plus, so I say this in the absolute nicest way, and I didn't know you guys before I started the podcast, obviously. Things like Colubrid and Colubroid, and I talk about Zach and Matt and Clint every single one of my episodes, so I hold them to the highest regard. They put out amazing content, but I think for the average person, it might be a little too nerdy. And even sometimes with you guys too, but your crowd, that's what they want to hear. That's what they want to do. I'm talking to those people who don't know a thing, or I'm trying to. And then, I have some people who have been coming over, like they want to see you guys, so they come watch my show, and I think I've been gaining a little bit of viewership that way. But I try to start with the whole introduction. I do the whole interview thing, and then I try to ask some, like, I think decent questions. Like I really try to make you guys think a little bit. I threw the whole rhino rat thing at you last week with the Hainanensis and whatnot. Like I think that was a good, not controversial, but like it's a question. It's a good thing to talk about it. And with everyone, I've tried to do that to the best of my ability. And I think all the guests have had amazing conversations. So really that's what it's about, is creating awesome conversations, bringing new people to the platform, who don't get as much light as they maybe should. And, again, just trying to bridge that market a little bit, bridge, make it all collide.
Yeah. And, two things on that. One, your episodes are very well thought out. You have a very good outline every single episode. It's like there's never really a dull moment. Every time the conversation drops off one topic, you got another question lined up.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. You do a very, very good job outlining your episodes.
Thank you.
Kudos to you on that. We have a bad habit of derailing here and not really having an outline together. We try to usually have something put up, but
Speak for
whatever.
yourself.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's just me. I'm the problem. But you do a very good job outlining your episodes. And too, you mentioned how a lot of your viewership are ball python people because that's kind of where you were for a minute. But I think that's awesome. I think that's great. I think that's what we need. You bridge that gap between ball python keepers and colubrid keepers. Now, with that, you're bringing guys like us who keep more colubrid centric collections. You're bringing that to light and showing the ball
More
python
diversity.
people. Yeah, you're showing the ball python people there's more out there than just ball
That's
python.
that's what's always.
But I
killed me.
always-
like I
but
never
guess what?
understood how people can just keep balls and
Yeah.
not see anything else outside of that realm. It's like there's so many species out there to keep. Like, how can you just put the blinders on and like not see
Yeah.
rhinos and all that other stuff?
Yeah. And then even like I call it like my all other reptiles freestyle segment where we don't talk about colubrids. We talk about whatever the hell else you have. Like Sky was great talking about all the monitors. You guys with the carpets, and Justin, we talked about chondros last week. Like it's all great. And then we're
Absolutely.
continuing to bridge that gap because we're talking about all those different things. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
just
I
trying
like
my
that a lot.
best.
I know. I mean, that's
No, you do
that's
you
good.
do a fantastic job, and that also kind of goes to show of like, oh, I don't have to only keep one species.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like everybody's got to focus. Like my main focus is rat snakes. Obsoleted. That is hands down by far my main focus. But I love Pituophis, so I have Pituophis. I love carpets, so I have carpets. You don't have to be it doesn't have to be black and white. You can have other things. Obviously, you have to be within your parameters. You have to keep stuff that is kind of
Yes.
at least similar, so it flows with your room, all that jazz. But there's a lot of species
There's a lot.
that will just flow just fine in your ball python room, and probably you don't even have to have heat on them. Like it's
Yeah.
there's a lot out there, and I do think you do a fantastic job at
I think
bridging
Thanks,
the
man.
gap. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that is definitely, I think, needed. It's I think Billy was talking about how he was vending one time, and I think he had some jungle carpets or something, and someone came up and asked what morph it was.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like that kind of stuff. It's like I struggle to relate because I can't envision myself keeping one species and not being aware of like anything else outside of that. So to me, it's so foreign. But like you think about that, and other people at shows who, you'll have carpets, and maybe it's just some popwins or something, and same thing. Like, oh, what morph is that? And it's like it's not a morph. This is exactly how they are. Like this is what there's. This is it. Like
Yeah.
and it's
And
to have
it's
something
funny.
like that. It's good.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned like the Billy at the show thing. Like funny enough, like there was at that Orlando show I was at last month or so. Someone asked one of my ball python friends if there were any garter snakes, and guess who he sent them over to? He sent them over to me because he was like, who the hell else knows about colubrids that he could send them over to? In his head, that's probably what he said. And he sent them over to me, and they asked, and I was like, I have no idea. It's not me though. And I don't think anyone did either way. And then he came up to me after. He was like, hey, I had some people looking for something. I sent them over to you. I was like, yeah, I don't got it, but thanks.
Yeah.
No, but like you'll find over time with the podcast, like you got a guy for everything. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you need
Yeah.
you're looking for Europlatus, like here's who you got to go to. You're looking for
Yep.
you're looking for Alterna, you're looking for Leonis, whatever. Like we got a guy. We know a guy.
Yep.
You know?
100%.
And that's what's really cool about it, man. Because I've told some people, because I've had random people kind of be like, "Yo, I've been thinking about getting into snakes." I'm like, do some research. If I've got something you want, I'll hook you up. If I don't have what you want, I know somebody who does. pretty
Yeah.
much whatever it is, unless it's something insanely obscure, But
Yeah, and
pretty
that's what
much
I
if it's
tell.
available, I can find it.
Yeah, and that's what I tell all the ball python people. Like, I'm in a bunch of these group chats and whatever. I'm like, guys, if you ever have questions about colubrids, just run it by me. And if I can't answer your question, I will get you someone who can answer your question or who has what you're looking for.
Okay.
And that's how it always is, because I've had some of those people in those groups who have taken an interest into new different species, some colubrids, and it's really awesome to see. So I think, not that I've had much of an influence yet, but I think it'll keep coming over time. But
Absolutely.
I'm just excited to be doing it, and hopefully I could keep bringing on a diverse group of guests, because that's what makes the world go around. I'll give a spoiler. We're talking Lamb Prophet's house snakes this weekend, so
Nice.
that's one I haven't touched on. So yeah, it's cool to bring a new thing to the table.
Those have been on my hit list for a long time too. I don't know if I'll
Dude,
ever get my hands on them, but
black house snakes are amazing. I had one took care of one at the pet store I worked at for a while. I was like, this thing's awesome, and they're so inexpensive, just very nice, simple to take care of snakes. Like, great.
They're the most Python-esque colubrids.
Yes, 100%.
You can have, but yeah, man, I think you do. I think you do a great job with the show. And man, you're only what, 9 episodes deep? 10?
8. 9's gonna be this week. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you're just scratching the surface, man.
Yep. Exactly.
There's a lot to be done, dude. That's the cool thing about colubrids is, like, if you have a specific podcast dedicated to one thing, not to say you're going to hit a ceiling, but there's not going to be, over time, there's not going to be much you haven't covered.
There's a certain amount of space for it to work, like ChondroCast, prime example.
There's not a ceiling, but you run out of stuff.
It's really hard to not have the same conversation.
Yeah.
But when you have it opened up to like colubrids, to where it's like, yeah, things are similar, but they're not. Like, there's enough wiggle room there to keep it going,
And I'll be honest, the 2 species I'm scared the most of in terms of repeating content, corns and hognose. Those are the 2 that are like the most hot and common right now, where it's like, I can't do those like so close together. I have to spread those guests out when I want to bring them on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
corns are a little different, because I mean, corns, at least, like, with
a little bit,
and the history behind some of them and stuff like that,
True.
Like corn stars.
Keep in mind, this is coming from the guy with a corn snake podcast.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I know.
Is also kind of like,
but it's a segment that he does, and you guys do all these shows, so like it's
Yeah, definitely adds.
It always morphs into like, what else are people keeping outside of corns? Because most of those guys have other colubrids and stuff too. So it's like,
yep.
But I feel like what y'all are doing with corn stars is, you're asking seems like everybody you have on has a different like focus in corns.
Yeah.
And there's so many different focuses you can have just in corns.
Yep.
It definitely can be its own show. Chondros, not so much. A little harder,
It is a lot harder.
There's so many morphs out there, and different, you can have an episode just about one morph and make a whole episode about it, the background, what you're doing with it, what it does with other morphs, all that, it's endless, and it's the same thing with just colubrids in general, man. I mean, there's so many colubrids. It's the most widespread, family of snakes. It's insane. There's colubrids in every continent. You're gonna get them. Maybe not everyone, but the large majority.
What has been like when you started the podcast versus now? Granted, you're 8 weeks in. What has changed from? What did you expect going into sort of what you've come to find now?
I gotta tell you, I was really nervous. Like literally when I hit the record button on
Mhm.
StreamYard or the go live, like you hear it in my voice. I've had my bouts with public speaking. Like I just don't like it. I don't like talking on a public, platform, but I kind of grew out of that in college. I took a public speaking class, so I've kind of evolved, and I think I speak well nowadays, though I still get those nerves. But I've started to become really comfortable, and people have commented on that, like just to me,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is appreciative.
Yeah.
Um, and really just kind of just going with the flow. It's starting to become kind of a flow now. The
Mhm.
episode with you, Justin, I'll be honest. So the first 7 episodes, I have a detailed layout that I basically have, and I kind of just edit it per person. It's like the same layout, but I kind of just make specific questions. I kind of just did off a whim. I kind of just went into it, and I didn't know you like that at all.
Mhm.
And you learn a lot in 2 hours. I feel like we're friends now, but you know, so that was cool. I was able to come up with questions on the fly, things I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. There were things I wanted to bring up. So it's starting to become in that kind of
Mhm.
natural feel now.
Yeah, and it's
And
once
I'm sure it won't be like that every time, especially with snakes I'm swimming in, you know, unfamiliar waters with, like species I really just don't know that much about.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I think I said it before. I'm getting schooled on all these episodes because I really just I don't know everything, and who does, but I only keep 3 species right now, so of colubrids. So yeah,
Yeah. That was actually I'm glad you said that because that was the other thing I wanted to compliment you on is how, when you and I were talking about the episode, I started elaborating a little bit and you're like, "Psh," like, nope, save it for the episode. I don't want to,
yeah,
I don't want to know you going into this.
yeah,
And I feel like that brings a much more organic thing. Cause like, I think you and I exchanged 5-6 messages before the show, and I
it
think
wasn't much.
yeah, and I think that's really cool because it's not like you're not asking a question being like, "Oh, I know the answer already, but I'm going to ask you so everybody else can hear." It's like, "I don't know what you're about to say, and I'm going to ask you." And I feel like it gives a much more organic feel to it. And I think it's really cool that you do that.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll tell you what, that first episode being so short, that was the hardest one because I talked to Kevin all the time.
Yeah.
That's I've been talking to him on Facebook for the last 7 years. I knew everything he said, and he said it on Colubrid and Colubroid as well. So I was hearing the same answers, but I did it for the audience as well.
Right.
And I knew all the answers to the questions I asked, but
And there's
I did
nothing
it for the
wrong with that.
show.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I like how you basically don't like I didn't know you at all,
Yep.
before our episode. And I liked it. I thought it was really
Yeah.
cool being like, all right, this is new. This is cool, and I just
I think it makes
it's
for a better conversation
absolutely.
for
Mhm.
sure. Way more organic stuff. And because again, what I've been seeing from all my guests is really the true passion about the animals. That's what this is about. That's what we're all here for. So these conversations come natural to us. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it shouldn't be hard for us to have these conversations. So
Yeah.
it's very, very easy to speak with everyone I've spoken to so far.
It's more like getting to know somebody that you just met at a reptile show, except it's a little bit more thought out because you have an outline and all that, but
Yeah.
it's more of getting to know somebody and having a conversation versus interviewing somebody, like
That's
I
what
think
I
it's
told
cool.
Jake from the beginning. Was like when we were starting this, was like it's just a conversation. That's what I tell people. Like people be like, "Oh, I'm nervous," I'm like, it's just a conversation. Like that's it.
Stop.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
ain't, don't overthink it. Like the outline I sent you, like it seems short, but it's like the guide rails at the bowling alley. It's
Yep.
like it's meant to just kind of keep things in the lane. It's not meant to be super structured and like ABCD. It's just
Yeah.
it's like just keeps it in line, keeps it in a linear direction. because we are going to bounce a little bit. It's not going to
Yeah.
be straight down the lane. It's going to ping pong a tad, and that's why it's shorter, is to leave room for that stuff. Leave room for Jake to go on about Amazon tree boas and how much he screwed that up, and like why rhinos are better and like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Like over time, we've definitely you find sort of a routine in how you
start
work,
you start to flow.
Once you find that, it's a breeze.
And Joe, you're starting to flow really, really well, dude.
Thanks.
It really shows every episode. I feel like you're progressing and it shows. And I'll tell you, because when we first started this, I had it in the kind of like you said, like the public speaking thing. I can do any podcast all day. That's fine. Because to me, there's not really an audience there. There's people in front of me and I have to talk. It's a problem. I can't public speak for shit. You'll hear it in my voice. I'm shaky, blah, blah, blah.
See, I found that this has actually helped me in that regard.
It has.
More
it definitely
comfortable.
Has. Yeah.
I'm not
better,
as bothered by it as I used to be.
I'm better interviewing. Like, I've had a few interviews since I've had several since we started this, and I've gotten way better at talking, but if I'm like on a stage and talking to like a crowd, nah, dog.
Yeah.
That's not me.
See, I don't know. The way I see it is like we make jackasses of ourselves.
Yeah.
In people's speakers, like hundreds and thousands of people's speakers on a regular basis. Like, what difference does it make if they're in front of me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
I don't know.
It's just, it doesn't bother me as much because like I sound like a jackass later instead of in front of all these people. But it's also different because in my line of work, if I have to make a speech, I have to look very professional and like a real person. On this, I can be a jackass. And that's
like a real person.
Yeah, I'm not a real person.
I want to be a real boy.
I'm a real boy. Yeah. But and that's the other thing with your show, Joe, is I feel like you give me the vibe of what I get on your podcast is what I'm going to get in real life, and I think that's a huge thing. Me and Justin have said if you meet us in person, it ain't no different.
Yeah,
like, if
100%.
anything, it might be a little worse. Like but.
And by the way, we are all. I'm joining the crew at Daytona this year because the fact that I was there and like it's funny how things go full circle and we just didn't know each other. It's hindsight is 2020, but next year is going to be fun for sure.
The Snakes and Stogies cabana just gets bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah, man, I'm super stoked. You definitely got to come hang out, man. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
It's funny how everybody like kind of like at some point or another, everybody kind of like separates a little bit during the days, but everybody comes together at night. Like there was one point, I think me and Sky were walking around. We were like, "Yo, let's go grab some food." And we were hitting the restaurant in the hotel, and all of a sudden we saw Pain Chab. We're like, "Hey, man, you want to come eat?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm hungry." And all of a sudden, Jason Keller shows up, Casey Cannon shows up, and there's a few of us just bebopping around eating. You just run into people that from your stupid podcast. It's funny, man. It's such a good time, dude. Daytona is my favorite weekend of every single year, no doubt.
Yeah.
Hotel's already booked, baby.
I gotta do that.
Yes, do it now.
Yeah, I will.
Luckily, they only require a deposit right now.
Okay.
It's not. It's a very small portion of the deposit, and you pay the rest.
Okay.
There, so
gotcha.
It's not like a. It's not a. Yeah, you don't get fucked right now. Just later, but
just a preview.
Yeah, it's just a preview. No, I wasn't playing around this year, boy. As soon as I saw those hotels were up, I said, "Yes, sir. Gotta go ahead and book that." So, hopefully, we get South Tower this time again. This was my this was my first year in the
that
South
walk
Tower.
Sucks,
dude. This was my first year in the South Tower, and being right there. As soon as you get off the elevator, the gazebo's right outside. I was like, "Oh yeah, dude,
get to your room in like 30 seconds and gotta walk.
You have to walk
300 yards.
Let's say you don't have to walk 4 blocks just to get to your elevator that doesn't work half the time, and it's great. But
it's the best weekend of the year.
Yep. Well, boys, we are 2 hours and 8 minutes in. Do we have any more questions or comments for Joe, Sir Smitty?
I don't believe so, unless you do.
I think we about covered everything. So, Joe, where's the best place for people to contact you? You know, give us all your plugs, man.
Yeah, at Meteoric Serpents on Instagram. That's METEORIC Serpents on Instagram. That's also my YouTube name, Meteoric Serpents. I do have Morph Market. I have a couple cool Texas rats available if anyone's into those. You could search me pretty much on anything. I use Facebook too, but it's just my Instagram posts that filter through to Facebook. Otherwise, yeah, send me a message. Whoever hears this, if you want to check out my show, sorry, shameless plug, but
No, man.
we go live, and I had both of these guys on, so you should check out their episodes for sure. And some other awesome, cool people. So yeah, just gonna keep that train rolling. I'm really excited about this season, and yeah, that's about it.
And if you go on YouTube and you don't know how to spell Meteoric, just type in Colubrid Corruption Podcast, and
it comes right up.
Yeah, yep. That's what I do now, because I've looked up your show every week. Pretty much, it's like on my feed every week now.
And I have a playlist on there, so like if you want to just binge watch all of them, they're all in a nice playlist for you, and they'll just be on autoplay.
Yeah. It's great, man. So it was funny you just being on YouTube. I was like, man, how's this gonna work?
I know.
How's this gonna work? Like listening to the podcast. But then I realized it's all the same. The only difference is when I pause it, I have to open up my phone to play it again.
Yes.
But I drive so much for work. I literally sit it on my truck little phone holder thing, and I just drive. It's no different.
Yeah, I think it might be something I incorporate down the line. And selfish me, I am trying to grow my YouTube channel as well, so I started off doing that. So I think eventually I will move to the podcast platforms as a secondary. But
yeah, do it.
No doubt, man. Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic episode with you, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on our show. It's been a really
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, make sure everybody checks out Joe, man. He's doing a lot of good stuff, and he's definitely going to be a heavy hitter. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Once again, this episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. You need a rack. You need a cage. BlackBox is all the rage, baby. They're best of the best. That's all we use here. They are fantastic. Hit them up. Best lead times in the biz. They are amazing people. Me and Justin make the trek to go there every year, not only to save on shipping, but also to see the amazing people that run BlackBox. So definitely check them out. And of course, our longest standing supporter, Steve Snaketuary.
Venom hot sauce.
Hit him up. Check him out. Buy his hot sauce. You're supporting a good cause and a great dude doing awesome stuff, and you get some great hot sauce in the meantime. So if that tickles your peach, go ahead and get that. Cottonmouth is great.
Cottonmouth sauce.
Do yourself a favor and get the whole freaking set, baby. It is the way to go.
That's right.
Gotta try it. And then, of course, we're not gonna forget it this time. Fulvius Apparel with my good friend and co-host Justin Smith. Check him out. He's got the coolest gear in the hobby right now. Probably one of the only people doing reptile related t-shirts. I mean,
there's not a lot.
You can't have enough of those, and they are all come up with by Justin himself. This is original Fulvius Apparel.
Designed, printed, shipped, made with love by me.
Made with love and care.
Maybe
he kisses every single shirt.
I do. If you're lucky, errant beard hair may be found on said shirt. So
nice.
Save that if you want. Preserve it.
You can clone him. You can clone him in a couple of years.
Put it in a little vial and wear it as a necklace. Oh.
On that note,
supposedly it's good luck.
I don't know. That might be
use the code THN at checkout on blackboxcages.com. Get 10% off your order. Use that same code THN at checkout on fulviusapparel.com. Get 15% off your order. That is the exclusive coupon code for THN listeners and viewers like you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Joe. This has been a wrap. Awesome episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone that tunes in. You could be listening to anybody, but you're listening to us. We appreciate it.
ChondroCast is coming back Sunday.
Yes. Check that out.
And Snakes and Stogies on Monday. Then Cornstars Draft next week, Thursday. That'll be live. That'll be good. That draft episode is fun as hell, dude.
Nice.
I had a blast doing that last year. I'm gonna enjoy it doing it this year. Don't know who's joining us yet. Sounds like it might be quite the crew, but we'll see. So be on the lookout.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No
Yeah,
problem.
man.